Welcome everyone, Denzel here, your personal finance geek of the 21st century. And in this video today, we're going to be looking at the velocity banking strategy and using credit cards to your advantage, right? How we can add some additional efficiency. So if this is your very first time watching, this is going to be a more advanced video on the velocity banking strategy. And if you've been around for a while, you've been following the channel, thank you very much for subscribing, being a loyal follower and even client. This is going to be a refresher and also reminding you of the additional hacks, tricks, and adding more efficiency to your debt elimination strategy. This case study that we're going to dive into is specifically focusing on eliminating debt as of right now, and we're figuring out the most efficient way to go about doing that. For this person, they've chosen the velocity banking strategy where they're using a home equity line of credit in the second position. They have a $76,000 credit line. Let's take it to the whiteboard. Currently, it's at 6.75% here in February of 2025 as I record this video. The interest rate was originally at 7.5% back in September of 2024. So rates have come down, which have made the line of credit even more favorable over time. We currently owe $38,558.58 on the HELOC. This is our income, $4,500 a month, expenses $3,500, total debt $211,000 with a cash flow of just a little over $1,000. Their main tool to practice the strategy, as I mentioned, is the HELOC. When you already have an existing balance on the line of credit, we want to bring that balance down, preferably to zero or close to zero before I use it again, unless there are circumstances that would require us to use it for the sake of saving money, potentially getting the cash flow faster, or it might just be a unexpected expense event. But the norm is we're trying to pay down that $38,000 out of the total $211,000. That's our focus. Now, in addition to your main debt tool, your main line of credit where you're sending all of your income in and all of your expenses are coming out, right? As mentioned here, right here, this is just showing giving you a picture of how the strategy looks in this person's finances. I usually draw a triangle where it really illustrates what's going on overall in a person's finances. You've got income landing into a checking account like every one of us. And ideally, you want to move that income as quickly as you can over to your line of credit. If your line of credit is at the same bank where you have your income at, you're making that process very easy, very simple for yourself. And then you're immediately moving money back out less than what you put in over the span of 30 days. So you put more in than what you took out, and you are effectively reducing your total interest cost, not the rate, okay? And I want to make sure you understand that. So if you've got a 6.75 interest rate on your line of credit, whatever your rate is, that's what it is. Now, what happens when you're dumping all your income into the line of credit is you are effectively reducing the total amount of this interest you would normally pay had you just made a regular payment to the line. So when you look at the span of time, how long am I owing $38,558.58? If I can effectively reduce the amount of time, the amount of days that I'm owing that money, then that is going to change the net amount that you ultimately pay in interest. Because this 6.75 interest rate, the way it's broken down is you can basically take that 6.75 and divide it by 365 days, okay? So 6.75 divided by 365. So you get this long number here, 0.018493150 6.68. If you ever want to know what your daily rate is, call your bank and ask them on your HELOC or your credit card or your personal line of credit. Ask them, what's my daily rate charge? So this person is paying roughly this rate, which will eventually equal what? 6.75%. But if I only owe the daily rate for 3 months, did I pay a full 6.75% on this amount of money? No. And so that's the whole idea here with when you're doing velocity banking, is you're constantly fighting against time by essentially replacing your checking account with your main line of credit. That's the main ingredient here with the strategy, is you're reducing the total amount owed on a daily basis, because with a line of credit, you need time before you realize, before you fully see the charge of 6.75% in a year, right? So 6.75 on 38,000 owed, 6.75% times 38,558 with 58 cents. The total amount of interest in 1 year, exactly 365 days, I'm looking at $2,602.70. When doing velocity banking, my goal is to, in that same year, pay way less than that 2602. And the most efficient way to do that is you keeping as much of your income as humanly possible for as long as possible in the line of credit, right? So when you're pulling money out of the line of credit, it's only to pay bills when they're due. So you've replaced your checking account as a place to park money. You're just simply parking it in the line of credit. Now, once you got that main ingredient down, you can add more efficiency to it, where you can say, okay, let me identify, say 1, maybe 2 credit cards that get me the most amount of cash back rewards, preferably, especially when you're in debt, cash back rewards according to how I spend money. What are your bills that can be paid with a credit card that if you ran it through that specific card, it would get you a 2% cashback reward, a 3% cashback reward. So what ends up happening is, out of this $3,500 of expenses, or when you're running your own numbers, you might have anywhere from 50, 60, 70, sometimes 80% of your money could get ran on a credit card first before you actually use your cash, which means you get paid, landed into your checking account, you moved it into a line of credit, and you didn't have to move money out of the line of credit until 15 days from now or 21 days from now, because you had 70, 80%, let's say, of your expenses were being ran on a credit card. And a credit card, although is at a much higher interest rate than your main line of credit, than your main debt tool, you're not actually getting charged interest right away. You only get charged interest on the due date if you don't pay the balance in full. Well, why would we not be able to pay the balance in full? Either A, because we simply made a mistake, a mismanagement of our finances, not properly stewarding this strategy properly. 2, unexpected events such as a job loss, right? You lose your job, income goes down dramatically, or you simply forget, and that would throw that in the mismanagement, a lack of stewardship category. Now, there's ways that we can prevent that from happening, right? We simply can create reminders on our phone, in our email. We can create auto pay of the statement balance of that credit card to come directly out of the checking account, or in some cases, depending on your bank, can come directly out of the home equity line of credit. So you're preventing errors, human errors, on your end by doing that. And also, if we're properly stewarding our finances and we say, okay, I'm only going to run monthly consistent bills on that credit card, then there's no reason why we wouldn't have the money to pay that expense, because it was money you were already spending, right? It was money you were already spending. It's just that your cash is now sitting in the line of credit, effectively reducing your daily cost of money. That's what's happening. Okay, so you're reducing your daily cost of money in the line of credit. You're buying time before you need to pull on that line of credit. In addition, you're running bills on a credit card, you're getting cashback rewards. So whether it's 2 or 3%, that could result in 30, 40, 50, 60 plus dollars every single month that you would just simply apply to the credit card statement balance as part of your payment, which means less money came out of the line of credit. That $50, $60 is dollars saved in the line of credit and interest saved. Okay, so that's cash flow essentially, right? So keep that in mind. Now, as we go through this case here, notice how we've got 4 credit cards that I'm showing on here. These 4 credit cards, and like many of you that have a bunch of different credit cards, some are charging you interest, and maybe you have some credit cards that are on 0%. In this person's case, they have 4 credit cards with balances. These are all debts that they're paying the monthly minimum payment on because they're all on 0% interest. And here are all the dates when they expire. We got a card expiring this year in August. Then we have another one expiring December this year in 2025, and then February and March. So when you're doing velocity banking, for maximum efficiency of every single dollar, we only want to pay the monthly payments on those 0% cards. Now, in addition, when it comes to leveraging debt, I threw some key things to be aware of, right? And also my leverage rules. Okay, you want to be aware of temptations. What does that mean? Okay, well, does it make sense for you watching this video to have 4 0% credit cards? Is that going to tempt you to buy the couch you've been wanting, to buy the TV you've been wanting, to buy any furniture in the house, to buy any consumer item that you wouldn't have got sooner because you simply didn't have the cash for it? But now because you have 0% debt in your mind, you now have this belief that you have more money. So do not believe you have more money. All you have is access to more debt at low cost. And lastly, I say, follow the leverage rules for success. What are those leverage rules? Well, I have a dedicated video on my channel called Velocity Banking Rule of Leverage. One of my most favorite videos out of my 7-year career making content is that video right there, because I feel like I really poured into that idea of understanding leverage. You see, when you go on social media, when you go online, there's typically 2 schools of thought around debt. Either never use debt whatsoever, right? That's one school of thought. Avoid debt like the plague. And then the other school of thought is leverage to your ears. Leverage as much as you possibly can, as fast as you possibly can, to create wealth as fast as possible, okay? And so for me personally, I don't know if you experienced this, but there wasn't really a middle ground. I'm like, well, I like the idea of being debt-free and avoiding debt when necessary, but I also like the idea of leveraging debt when it makes sense to create cash flow and build more wealth. Well, then where's the happy medium? What's my way of measuring my what I call leverage capacity, right? My ability to know when enough is enough, right? So under the leverage rules, I came up with this after working with so many people, all walks of life, all across the United States, and also for my personal finances, which is I take your cash flow times 12 in a year. And I say, okay, this is the total amount of cash flow you have to work with in a year estimated, right? Then I look at your credit limit on your main debt tool, and I times that by 66%, or you could say 2/3 of the line of credit. That's going to determine your chunk range. So if we have a $76,000 line of credit times 2/3 is $50,160. Then $1,066.43 of cash flow times 12, $12,797.16. This is your chunk range. I never want to owe more than $50,000 on this $76,000 home equity line of credit. And when it comes to paying off debt, to go faster than making extra payments in a year, you're going to need to leverage more than $12,796.16 in advance, so that you actually are going faster than the traditional way of getting out of debt. So when you try to compare someone making extra payments and someone doing velocity banking, in order for velocity banking to be properly illustrated, that person needs to be leveraging more than the person that's making extra payments so that they go faster. Okay, following along? Hope you are. Then, knowing your chunk range, your max capacity, leverage rules, I also incorporate the cash flow index method. The cash flow index formula says you take the balance owed of any debt, you divide it by the monthly minimum payment, and you're going to get a cash flow index score. You go from lowest number to highest number, and that tells you which order to pay off debt. Compared to the traditional way of getting out of debt, you would simply line up your debts from smallest to greatest. So if you were following that snowball traditional way of getting out of debt, making extra payments, lowest debt to highest debt, right? Then you would be forced to pay off 0% credit card debt when you're getting hit with interest in other locations, like the home equity line of credit, like the person's first lien mortgage, like their car loan, and other debts that they may have. That technically are higher balances, but from a cash flow perspective, how can I get to cash flow faster? Whoever has more cash flow always wins when you're evaluating debt elimination strategies. Whoever has more cash flow typically will end up being the winner. So when you have that in mind, what we're doing here is we're stacking methods. Instead of trying to do a this or that, or this versus this, we can simply say on this YouTube channel, we welcome all debt elimination strategies. We'll take the best of debt snowball, we'll take the best of velocity, we'll take the best of cash flow index, and we'll create this customized debt elimination plan to expedite this person's goals in terms of paying off debt as quickly as humanly possible and efficiently. So now this person's got 4 0% credit cards. We're not going to pay these off anytime soon. We do know the first one that will pay off will be the August one. That's this year. We're in February right now. So once August comes, whatever the remaining balance is, we can simply move that balance into the HELOC. Simple as that. To avoid that remaining balance being at a 20-something% interest rate, you might as well push it into the 6.75. And knowing what we know about the daily rate, we never actually get to a full 6.75 cost in a year. We never actually get there. It'd be less. Now, these credit cards are from major banks. Typically, major bank credit cards, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, Citi, that's what these cards are pretty much made of, will have on rotation 0% offers on purchases and balance transfers. And typically, there is a balance transfer fee anywhere from 3 to 5%. So when you're leveraging for balance transfer, you need to keep in mind of that cost and also keep in mind of your leverage rule. This person, I'm pretty sure you could agree with me, they are in a over-leveraged position when you factor in the amount of 0% debt they have and how close they are to 66% of their credit line. When I first met them, they were at a much higher over leveraged capacity, and that's typically how I meet most of my clients. Most of you that watch this video that are looking to improve your finances, you are in a over leveraged position typically, and we want to improve that. We want to get better. How do we do that? It starts with knowing your numbers, understanding the goals, the mission at hand, and then we're slowly incorporating and building stacking strategies one at a time. So now look, I like major bank credit cards. They have a purpose. I think they're good. And I also like small bank credit cards, credit unions that have the same offers, 0% offers on balance transfers and purchases, and will offer a 0% balance transfer fee, which is very unique. These are more rare, harder to come by. You need to build a relationship with the bank, and you need to take time before you apply, because typically what I've seen is the amount of credit limit you get isn't typically as high as what the major banks typically give. Okay. What I like to see with most velocity banking strategies when we're first starting out, and even if you're seasoned, is 1 to 2 credit cards max for running bills to get the cashback rewards while you're in debt. 1 0% credit card with a credit union, 0% balance transfer fee, where you can simply park some of your credit line debt of your main debt tool or other debts. And again, using the same rules, I typically won't leverage more than 66% unless there's a clear reason to from a cash flow standpoint. But understand, you're still creating risk, right? Because if you max out the whole card and you're not able to pay it off before the 0% expires, and if your credit line is maxed out for whatever the case may be, you're creating that issue, that future potential issue. So if we're talking conservative, if you have a $10,000 credit card, we're only going to leverage that much, which means your payment is only going to be about somewhere around that number, 66 bucks, 70 bucks, 75, maybe 100 max. Usually, you're only being charged 1% of the balance on that 0% intro period. So what this person can do while they're doing velocity banking on their main debt tool right now, they started in the high 40s when we first met. We're now in 38s. That number is going to keep going down. Money in, money out, doing velocity banking, running bills through a credit card, getting cashback rewards, effectively reducing their total interest each and every month. It gets lower and lower and lower each and every month because they're expediting the debt payoff timeline. What they will do is they'll add this aspect into their finances. They're going to build a relationship with a credit union in their area, preferably, and find themselves a 0% credit card that they can acquire with a 0% balance transfer fee. While that's happening, their credit score is getting better. All right, so you're going to build a relationship where you're not just going to apply right away. You're going to build that relationship. You're going to keep an eye on your credit score. We're going to keep doing these moves, getting out of debt faster. We're going to be moving these balances little by little into the line of credit. When these balances get paid off, what will also happen, another temptation, is the bank sends mail, says, hey, do another 0% offer at whatever fee they have. Now, we might use that, but I would rather use this first because it's no cost, and that would be secondary. In addition, when these cards get paid off, another little hack, and this increases your overall credit score, reduces DTI by requesting a credit line increase. There's no harm in requesting credit line increases on these different credit cards that you have that are active. I typically like to do credit line increases on the cards that I'm running my bills through first, get those credit limits up, because then my overall utilization goes down, which means credit score goes up. My DTI is doesn't look as bad, right, on paper. It's the same amount of debt that you owe, but because you have more capital to work with, it looks like you're using less debt. You can typically request a credit line increase every 3 to 6 months. Okay, keep that in mind. So these are small little hacks, little efficiency moves where you've got your main debt tool, you've got your side tool, typically a credit card for running bills to either reduce your cost of living. That's what happens. You're literally reducing your cost of living if you do it properly. You then claim those rewards as cash, apply it to the credit card itself, which means less money comes out of line of credit, which means less daily cost of money, which means more cash flow, literally the next month. You create cash flow by paying less interest each and every month. You're doing velocity banking on your main debt tool. Then you'll typically, when I find clients and work with them, typically we already have 0% credit cards, or we might have a 0% credit card available that we can use, but understand you do not have more money. Don't believe you have more money. Don't fall for temptations. Follow the leverage rules so that you don't over leverage yourself over here, because that's where people get themselves messed up, right? If the goal is pay off debt, don't accumulate more. Give yourself that time, build that discipline of prolonging purchases, consumer items, for as long as we can until you've eliminated the debts that you want and you have the cash flow higher, so that when you go to acquire the tool, you've got options and you can finance things at 0% cost or little to no cost. And you give yourself that time. So with that being said, that wraps up today's case study. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, you click the links below. I've got the ability to book a one-to-one phone call with me, 1-hour consultation, where we evaluate your current financial situation and build out a plan of success on how to move forward. From there, we'd have a follow-up call, and then we would discuss long-term relationship. For me, I'm an all-in kind of guy. When I work with my clients, you can ask any one of my clients. For those of you that are clients, comment below so that people can see, and you can post your testimony about how all in I get with my clients. I'm in it for the long run, not just helping you get out of debt, but also building wealth, investing and saving for the future, and building a legacy that you can leave behind. Ultimately achieving financial freedom, success, security, and independence. That's my big goal, but I know the biggest block that a lot of you have is the debt. So before I get into making money and investing and creating all these different assets and buying different things and all that, I got to remove that big block that most of you have that's preventing a lot of clarity, preventing you from making good financial decisions, right? So it's a step-by-step process. Think of velocity banking as a bridge to get to the next level, right? And I can be that accountability partner for you. So you can reach out directly. We can build a relationship. You can start with an initial call. You can buy one of my courses maybe and build. You start building. You can even start with no money whatsoever through Finance Geek Ministry and get engaged with the content. And you can exchange social currency to get on a call with me one-to-one and eventually work your way to making that investment. Ultimately, I want to be able to work with people on a long-term basis, and I'm able to do that one-to-one. I've been blessed with this position to be able to serve people at a very, very high level without having to come out of pocket, right? And the way I operate is lifetime. So my one-to-one programs are designed for us to work together for life. Literally, however long each of us live is how much I'm dedicating to you. So you pay a fee one time or spread over monthly payments, which would total somewhere around $4,000 to $4,500, depending on how you pay. I provide incentives for people who pay in full. So they just pay a one-time fee of, say, $3,997, or you just round up and call it $4K, or they spread that out over payments, end up paying somewhere around $4,500. So you do that one time or over monthly payments, and then you literally have me for life. And I'm very, very flexible, especially in the beginning years. Like, for example, working with a client right now where we started off making monthly payments of $375 a month, and they asked to go down to about $50 a month. And I said, no problem. Let's go down to $50 a month so that you can retain that cash flow to keep paying off more debt faster, because you got some things that are coming up soon, some big expenses, some traveling, different things like that. Totally accommodate, and we maintain our relationship and communication and accountability so you can hit your goals that much faster. So there's a lot that I can do for you one-to-one, but it's all about building trust and willing to be taught. I'm a young guy like myself. Most of my clients are 50s and up. So if you're a married couple, husband and wife, and you've been in debt for the majority of your life, and you just said enough is enough, and I need to be coached, I need a trainer, I need a partner, that an outside person to come in and identify all our leaks, all our holes, and get to the next level, I can be your guy. And if not, maybe I can refer you to someone else. Okay, so that works too. I've got a team behind me of people that do what I do in certain areas even better than what I do. So if it's not me, it could potentially be someone else that you can work with. My goal is I want everyone to succeed. All of my followers on this channel are real followers, people that are actually going through financial troubles, situations, traumas, challenges, and obstacles. And you come to this channel to get real, authentic information. And I'm not going to blow smoke up you know what. And I'm going to give it to you how it is. I'm going to show you the numbers. I'm going to illustrate it all out. If I ever make a mistake, you call me out on it. We discuss, we have a dialogue, and we improve. I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, but together we can develop a perfect strategy for you to succeed in your life. And with that being said, again, my name is Denzel Rodriguez, your personal finance geek of the 21st century. God bless, and we'll be talking soon. Bye now.